نحمده ونصلي ونسلم على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. We need to get our facts clear. Number one, the issue of following a madhab rather than picking and choosing is more of a later development, not in the first three generations of Muslim when people were connected to Sahaba and the students of Sahaba, the Tabi'een, and they tend to not follow their whims and desires, rather they would be going with the safest opinion and options. They would rather be more on the safe ground. When in the third generation, fourth generation Muslim communities, people started picking and choosing, knowing the fatwa of different imams, been recorded and could be found here and there, and they would just go for the one that they wanted. It has become it then became a problem, and that is when people would start taking the opinions and mixing them in such a way that it would lead to talfiq, which actually nullifies the issue in both ways, and is haram to do talfiq by consensus if it is done in that regard. Obviously, there are certain detailed matters with regards to talfiq as well, but broadly, you should not mix two madahib in such a way whereby the action is actually nullified according to one or the other or both. The example of this is generally given. For example, Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullah alayhi, or Hanafi school, considers that bleeding from any part of the body after wudu, and if the blood travels from its wound or exit point, nullifies the wudu, the ablution. Imam Shafi, on the other hand, has opinion that if one touches a woman, a mature woman, on the skin to skin touch on the hand or any part of the body, then that would nullify the wudu. So the scenario is that you have done your wudu and you came out, and your wife was, or someone from the family, mother or whoever, was coming in to do the wudu, and you're coming out, you accidentally touched her, your wudu is gone. But you decided, you know what, based on Hanafi school, it is not nullified. Let me just carry on because I'm rushing to the masjid and it would delay me. And as you were towards the masjid, you noticed and you felt some salty taste in the mouth, and you spat out, and you found that actually your sputum is, or your phlegm, or your spit is more pink than white. And that, according to Hanafi school, is enough bleeding to render your wudu nullified. And now you said, okay, according to Imam Shafi and Imam Ahmad, it doesn't nullify, bleeding doesn't nullify your wudu, so I would rather take their view and carry on. So now, in this situation, you've got two different reasons that have nullified your wudu, according to one or the other Imam, or both, and that by consensus nullifies your wudu. But to combine the different opinions in such a way is called talfiq, and this is haram. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran, فَرَأَيْتَ مَنِ اتَّخَذَ إِلَهَهُ هَوَاهُ. Have you seen the one who has taken his desires as his Lord? So talahi, tashahi, talfiq, mixing and matching according to one's desires is haram. So the scholars in the 3rd, 4th century unanimously then advise people to stick to one madhab, because things are codified. If you go between and among different schools, it would just mix and match, and that would lead to this haram thing of the shahi and talahi and talfiq. Anyway, with that being said, this is in the matter of detailed juristic rulings in furu'iyat. You do not follow in imam in or any imam in usuliyat. So the matters are detailed matters for which there is no categorical answers, and there could be more than one answer to a situation. So with that being said, the other point that one needs to understand is when we say that all imam are upon the truth, all four imam are on the haqq, we do not say that the all four have correct opinion in each matter, because it can't be. You can't be saying that nullifies the wudu and other imams say it doesn't nullify the wudu. So people think when we say, or when the scholars or the pious people of the past, they declare all four schools to be upon the haqq. Those who do not follow school tend to normally attack, saying, oh, since there are four imams and they're all on the haqq, why can't we take anything? Again, faulty understanding, fractured understanding. We do not say that they're all having this correct opinion or view on that particular mas'ala. Obviously, there's only one right answer to all of those questions. Sometimes it will be Imam Hanifa's view that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would prefer according to Allah's Sharia. It may be that. It may be Imam Malik's. It may be Imam Ahmad. It may be Imam Shafi'i. So any of those ruling in a given situation would be more preferable or more correct or correct compared to the other ones. That is why the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when a qadi, a judge, a mujtahid makes a decision, and that decision, and he's qualified obviously to do so, then his decision could either be right or wrong. If it's right, he gets 2 rewards. If it's wrong, he gets 1 reward. He never gets any sin or blame, because he's qualified to do so, and he has exerted himself, and he's got the answer right. And if he hasn't, then at least he gets the reward of exerting himself in the right way. They never get any punishment because they're qualified to do so. Unlike those who are not qualified, even if they got it right, they should be punished, and they are punished. And this happens in every walk of life. I, as a doctor, if follow all the steps correctly and get a wrong diagnosis, and the patient gets killed, dies, and I couldn't cure him, no court will penalize me. On the other hand, if I was successful in curing him, then alhamdulillah, I get reward. Many times families and patients, they thank you. That's a beautiful reward from them when they thank you and they show their gratitude in their, in their eyes. You could see it. But if someone who is not doctor attempts to treat someone, gives a prescription, and then actually that prescription does work, and then the patient gets better actually, what do you think the court will say? You've done a good job by curing him, but you have to spend 3 months in jail. How dare you even prescribe medication which was not in your jurisdiction? It wasn't your prerogative to prescribe any medication. You're not qualified to do so. That's a fraud. He said, well, I cured the man. It doesn't matter. He got it wrong. It doesn't matter. He's qualified to do so. So the same here. When we say the imams are upon the truth, that means that they are all great imams and they're qualified to give their fatwa, and they either get 1 or 2 rewards. But in any given situation, in any given issue, only one opinion is correct. Either this is awla or that is awla. It is either this is sunnah or that is sunnah. Either this is sunnah and that is better sunnah. This is wajib and that is not wajib. Even this, either this is mustahab and that. Whatever the ruling is, it can't be both right. But the attitude dictates following any of these 4 imams. If that's the case, then that's right. So someone who follows any of these imams, say the Shafi follow Imam Shafi rahmatullahi, and then even if the opinion is wrong, it doesn't matter. For him, the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is clear. فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Ask the people of knowledge if you do not know. And he did that exactly the same way. He gets the reward of following the qualified scholar based on Quranic injunction. He didn't know the matter, and he got the answer from the qualified scholar. He didn't mix and match. MashaAllah, all good. On the other hand, someone who said, I do not follow any of these imams, and he's not qualified, yet he does his DIY, his own work, and then got a hadith and he followed it. Actually, what he followed was right as well. But even then, his attitude is such that he feels that actually I am following a hadith, but he doesn't know the hadith is sahih. He can never know the hadith is sahih. He has to depend on someone else, the likes of Imam Bukhari, who said, oh, actually Imam Bukhari says the hadith is sahih, that's why I'm taking it from him. Yeah, but Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam never asked you to follow Imam Bukhari. Is the hadith to say follow Sahih al-Bukhari or Sahih Muslim or Sahih Sitta or any other book? No. Follow about the words of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his commands, his statements, his action. How do you know this is his action? You have to trust. Who told you that this is Sahih? Sahih al-Bukhari is the best book. How do you know? Can you verify those hadith? No. You have to follow the scholarly saying that this is the best book after Quran. So are you following Sunnah or are you following the scholarly saying? So you are following, you're bound to follow Imams or the scholars, no matter what. And that could be that you follow Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Malik, Shafi, or Ahmad, or you follow Imam Ibn Taymiyyah, or you follow Imam Ibn Ba'ad, Imam Al-Bani, or Imam Uthaymin, Rahmatullahi alayhi majma'in. That's up to you. Or someone even later than that, someone who's Imam in your masjid. So you are bound to follow someone if you're not qualified Mujtahid Imam, which will take a lifetime to achieve in the modern time, obviously. So the bottom line is, not every answer from each of these Imams is correct. Rather, they are generally authenticated. It's like, can I follow American guideline on treating COVID or British guidelines? They both are correct. You can take whichever. You can take whichever country's guidelines. But take one. If you start mixing between American and European and Pakistani and all the different guidelines, and you are qualified to do so, that's fine. No one would penalize you or question you because you know what you're doing and what you're doing. But if you just graduated, and it's still a doctor though, know a little bit about it, just doing your house there, when you start deciding to pick from here and there, thinking that, you know, I am qualified and they're all right guidelines, let me just take it now. Then you are causing yourself into big trouble. Let alone a common man who's not even a doctor. He hasn't even studied medicine. How could he be allowed to do all the mixing and matching, thinking that, oh, they're all fine anyway? Or you can broaden it to say that I follow homeopathy and you do allopathy. He does some spiritual healing and they do some Chinese acupuncture, and they're all correct in their own codes, but you can't mix and match. You can't treat the same condition with all 3-4 different styles of treatment and using it. So because before you die of the disease, you will die of the mixing and the matching of the medicines from different specialties or areas. So we shouldn't be, you know, thick and dumb enough to not understand this. We should know that this is a common thing that we do in our day-to-day stuff. I mean, this is a matter of deen. Even in dunya, you would not have your children studying the same subject with 2 different teachers, only because their style is different of teaching. So no, I can't have you teach my kid today and another teacher tomorrow, and the next day another teacher is teaching the same subject. No, the kids will get confused. But when it comes to deen, everything goes, because we are arrogant enough to believe that we can cope with anything and everything because we've got some worldly degree, unfortunately. And that's a big problem. That's a big deal with the modern mind. There's no humility. And that's because we're completely ignorant. We can't even know that we don't know. May Allah give us tawfiq.